Welcome to another episode of Count Me In. I'm your host, Adam Larson, and today we're thrilled to have Gaby Lahoud, CEO of Be Certified Pro, joining us. If you're preparing for the CMA or any other certification exam, or looking to sharpen your study techniques, this episode is for you. Gaby emphasizes the importance of understanding over memorization and offers tips on approaching the exam with confidence, managing your time, and overcoming psychological barriers like test anxiety. He also provides practical advice on integrating study time into a busy schedule and maintaining focus on exam day. Whether you're a first-time exam taker or seeking to improve strategies, you'll find a wealth of wisdom and actionable tips here. Join us as we uncover the keys to mastering certification exams with Gaby Lahoud right here on Count Me In. Well, Gaby, we're really excited to have you on the Count Me In podcast as we talk around certifications and taking an exam and the parts of the brain and that you have to use to get there. And it's just a really exciting subject because people are always trying to get certified, and whether it's the CMA exam or another exam, there's a lot of psychological things that happen when you're trying to do that. And maybe we can start by talking about some of the barriers that people face as they're trying to get into taking exams and maybe how we can overcome them a little bit.
Yeah, sure thing, Adam. First, thank you for having me today. And actually, the psychological and physiological, we're going to discuss, I believe, more about physiological in a bit. But the psychological barriers are actually the most critical when you're doing any type of exam, because you are actually limiting yourself to what you are able to do. And I see candidates who, for example, were A students at the university on a university level, and then they failed the CMA exam and say, why? Because they doubted themselves. The biggest problem is doubt. I can't do it. Self-doubt, fear of failure. Fear is the biggest problem. Specifically, if you are a qualified person, if you are a high achiever, if you have passed big exams before, you are afraid to fail. You are afraid for others to see you as a failure. And that might actually be the reason why you failed. And another big problem is overthinking. If you think about it, candidates sometimes just get a simple question or a simple concept and they start overthinking. There's a trick there. What do I remember about this? So when people avoid doubt, fear of failure, overthinking, I believe psychologically they will be more fit to pass the CMA exam.
Wow. And it's so interesting because as you were saying those things, I see those things in my children, and when they're in high school, like my kids are in high school and grade school, and like I see them do it all the time. I'm like, hey, stop overthinking it, just do it. But it's interesting because as you grow, as you get older and go into the business world, we continue to do that things. And a lot of times people don't realize that they're overthinking. How do you get out of that? How do you get yourself out of that? How do you work toward pulling yourself out of that mindset?
Actually, the first thing is practicing the law of attraction. I don't know. I believe many people have read about the law of attraction, and actually, it's in religious stuff such as the Bible or any other type of religious book. It's in psychology, physiology, business. So it exists. There's an energy in that word that will actually either direct you to pass or to fail. So if you're always gonna be self-doubting yourself instead of having self-confidence, oh, I'm not gonna pass, I'm gonna fail, I don't think I'm ready, I don't think I'm gonna make it, what if? Your brain doesn't understand that these are things that you are trying to prevent. Your brain is hearing these things over and over again, and your psychology, physiology, your mindset, your unconscious, subconscious will think that that's what you want to achieve. And actually, your brain will help you to fail instead of passing. So practice the law of attraction. First, I always say it, assess your self-awareness. So be self-aware of your capabilities, how your brain works. There's no one rule that fits everybody. Each person is different than the other. So you need to be self-aware of your capabilities, how you think, how you move, your time constraint, your stress, everything, and help this self-confidence. Visualize yourself scoring 450 over 500. Visualize it. Put it in a visual board, which is something that every successful person does. So do that as well. That's an achievement. That's a big milestone in your life to pass the CMA exam. So what I do, and everybody say, I've never seen you stressed for any exam in your life. I say, because I don't care if I pass or fail. And actually, I'm going to test a little bit more about that. I'm going to enjoy the exam. I'm going to test myself. I'm not going to tell everybody, hey, listen, I passed. Okay, I'm just there to enjoy to enjoy the exam, and that's will release the stress, will release the overthinking. Just go through it. Have confidence in yourself. I want to do it. You need to have this mentality that I want to do it, not I have to do it. Not I have to do the CMA because I need a better salary. I have to do this. I want to do it because I want to grow myself. I want to see myself a successful person. That's what I want to do. So that would change the whole mindset.
That's interesting because a lot of times when people hear, hey, just change your mindset and it changes you, some people write it off as, oh, that's new age this, or that's the self-help mantras. But there's some truth in science to change, to like saying things over and over again to help change your mindset. And it's something that not everybody agrees with, but there's proof in the pudding as it works.
Yep, totally agree, 100%.
So when it comes to things like, sometimes people talk about things like test anxiety, and that's something that I hear a lot where like, oh, I couldn't take it because I get test anxiety. And, a lot of times like in schools, they'll say, oh, they have these things to help them out. But what about, you're a professional, you're like, you don't want to admit I have test anxiety. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that and maybe some different strategies you can use to overcome it.
Oh, sure thing. That's what I was just saying, that I never had test anxiety, not because I'm different or I'm a super person or it's just that going back to the mindset. So we make things more complicated. So when you say, oh, I have a CMA exam, oh, that's so complicated. That's big. That's a global certification. That's going to be hard to pass. I see a lot of people failing. Stop making the exam more complicated than what it is. It's not rocket science. A lot of people have passed it with little or less skills or less resources than what you have. So there's a lot of more things in our life that are more critical and complex than the CMA exam, and we have overcome those successfully in our lives. So the CMA exam is just one additional milestone that we need to pass. So stop making things more complicated. And again, my mindset is I don't care if I fail. I don't care what others think. People always care what others will think. What will my family think? What will my colleagues? What will my friends? I'm a failure. I'm not that smart. That's not an indication if you are smart or not. Every person has a different approach into achieving something. If you failed 100 times, if you failed the CMA exam 100 times and then you passed it, you are a CMA. You have this international passport with these 3 letters. You are a CMA. Everybody will say, oh, that person is a CMA. But if you failed once or you give up, even before you fail, if you gave up and say, oh, I'm not going to go through it, I would say, oh, he doesn't have the CMA. He failed. He quit the CMA. So it's all about mindset. I don't care. If I didn't do it this time, I'll do it later on. So a lot of studies also show that when you put pressure on yourself, you eventually tend to fail. So just say, okay, I can't do it today. I'm going to start tomorrow. I'm going to do it tomorrow. I'm going to make it better. I'm going to start with 1 page and then move forward, and always avoid procrastination. That's the biggest problem with test anxiety, because you're always postponing things because you are afraid. So just go through it and things will just break down easily.
I like that approach of, well, I don't really care. However, when you think about it, sometimes people will say, well, Gaby, I can't afford to take the test 100 times. I can't afford that retesting fee. How do you find that balance of, I don't care if I pass or fail, but I need to make sure I pass, in the right amount of time, because maybe like money's an issue or something else. You got to find that balance too.
Oh, definitely. When I say I don't care about failing or passing, that's the mentality that you have to take throughout the end of the exam, not at the beginning.
Gotcha.
The beginning, you need to put the right strategy. So when you still have 1 day or you are on the exam day, actually stress on the exam day is more critical than stress throughout the whole studying period. Because on the exam day, if you're stressed, that's going to affect a lot of things, and we might discuss more about that in a bit. But going back to your question, it's all about balancing between building this confidence through time. Confidence doesn't come in 1 day. You're going to be stressed at first. No matter what you do, when you start something new, you have a lot of unknowns. Stress comes from the unknown. Risk comes from the unknown. The less you know, the more stressful you're going to be. That's why you see a lot of candidates that are super stressed at the beginning of the program. They have a lot of questions. They don't know the answers of what should I do? How much should I study? How many hours? I get these questions a lot. So you need to know that confidence is built over time. Okay. You need to have the right strategy. I discuss a lot of strategies, and I shot a lot of videos with IMA, I believe in 2019, around 6 videos talking about all of these strategies that you need to set to be able to achieve the state that I don't care. I have confidence. Actually, when you say I don't care, that comes from confidence. It doesn't come, I don't care, I'm just going to pay and go do it. No, I'm talking about I don't care if I fail or pass. It means I have the confidence I'm going to do it. And in case I didn't pass, that's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
I can learn from my mistakes. I can readjust my strategies. I can improve myself. I can learn new things. I can understand things better. Maybe I failed because there are certain critical things in that CMA that will help me in my career, but I didn't go through them thoroughly or I didn't understand them. This is my chance to be better. So you need to have, this will give you even discipline. Maybe you need to find the right mentor. Some people don't have that discipline. So you need to find the right person and say, okay, I need to find someone that will help me get through this. So when you start building that, you don't have to do it 100 times. You don't have to do it maybe 2 times. You don't even, you will pass at from the first attempt. But stress, trust me, the higher the level of stress, the higher the probability of failure. I don't care if you are an A student. I don't care if you have 100 years of experience. I've seen that. I had candidates who are CFOs. And they have years of experience. They are smart, sharp, and they failed the CMA. I have students that are fresh graduate and barely know anything, and they pass it. So it's not about just knowledge. It's about the approach. It's about your confidence. It's about the strategy, discipline, studying, having all of that as a bundle.
You know, that makes a lot of sense. And so you mentioned a number of times that having the right confidence. So what role does confidence come in being successful at an exam?
Confidence comes with having the right progress when you are studying.
Okay.
I see a lot of candidates that start with confidence, then that confidence is shattered when they are in the mid or by the end of their studying schedule. Why? Because when they started, they say, oh, I can do it. I understood the first couple of pages. Oh, that's easy. That's easy because you just studied 2 pages. But when you reach 100 or 200 pages, that's no longer easy. It's not that the exam is hard. It's not that the material is hard. It's that now you have a lot of information to keep in your head. So I use something I call the rolling strategy, and I shot a couple of YouTube videos on that and shared them with every single candidate that take the program with us. The rolling strategy, it means how you should study to train your brain to stay efficient throughout your studying pattern and will prepare you to do the exam in the right way. So having the right approach, maybe you have someone that studied 1,000 hours and another one 100 hours, and you see the 100-hour person pass. And that's what I do. That's what I've done actually in all of my exams. Okay, having the right strategy will build confidence because you see yourself progressing. The more chapters you take, and if you keep going back and forth with the right strategy on how to study and accommodate all of these chapters together, because that's what you're going to be tested on the exam. They are not going to test you on each subject separately. They are all aggregated in one exam. So when you see that as 2 months have passed and now you are able to see the general concept of the exam, you are able to understand all of this material, you still remember things, you are getting better in your multiple choice or essays. The more you practice, the faster you are getting. You were solving a multiple choice question in 5 minutes, now you're doing it in 30 seconds or 1 minute. That will build confidence. Okay. And another thing for building confidence is understanding your ability to do it. That's something I always do. Oh, I don't have time. Okay, you don't have time. That's fine. Start with 1 page. Just read this 1 paragraph. Then you can't stop. You're going to read the second, the third, and you say, oh, look, I've spent 30, 40 minutes and I've passed 4 or 5 pages. Why? Because you're not stressed. You're just doing 1 step at a time, 1 small block. And then you feel this energy inside you. Oh, look what I've achieved so far. I didn't want to study, and look what I am, where I am now. And that will start building confidence over time.
Yeah, I like that. Now, we've been talking a lot about the psychological aspect, but you've mentioned in the beginning that you wanted to touch on physiological responses. You know, sometimes like stress or sleep patterns, having trouble sleeping, and sometimes when you're stressed, you have physical reactions in your body. How does that impact your ability to kind of perform well when you're in the midst of an exam?
Before I jump into stress and sleep, I want to touch on a subject that always get my candidates or my friends to laugh, which is food and drinking. What to eat, what to drink. And that's a major physiological thing, specifically on the day of the exam.
Okay.
But that doesn't have to be only on the day of the exam. You can practice it early on. And I discussed the 4-hour mock exams within the last month, which I can discuss in a bit more details in a bit. But what to eat and what to drink is very important on the exam day, because if you drink too much, you're going to keep visiting the restroom. The time will not stop. And every time you need to go to the restroom, what will happen? You're losing precious time because you need to take permission, get out, go. If there's someone waiting or someone inside, you have to wait. Then you need to come back. They need to check you, sign you in. You need to go back, take 4 or 5 minutes to get back into the exam mode. And if you're going to do that a couple of times, you won't have enough time for the exam. If you drink too little, you're going to be dehydrated. That's not good for your physiology. We all know when you get dehydrated, not enough oxygen is passing through your brain, and you need every single energy in that brain to be able to get you to pass the exam. What to eat as well. If you eat too much, you're going to be lazy. All your blood, all your oxygen is going to be digesting instead of analyzing. And if you eat too little, then you're going to be hungry and you're going to be thinking about food instead of passing the exam. Stress is another big issue in blocking your brain from staying functional effectively and efficiently throughout the exam. And again, stress comes from everything we just spoke about. From self-doubt, from not having the right schedule, from not setting the exam, and so on. Sleep is a big, big issue. And many people cannot sleep before the day of the exam. And then they are tired even before the exam starts. That's why I always advise everybody not to study the day before the exam, or at least stop around noon and just take the rest of the day to have fun. Spend time with family, watch a movie, do your best sport. This will put your body and your brain in a better mood. And actually, it's better to do some physical activity. This will get you tired enough so that you can get enough sleep to be ready for the second day. Because if you're going to keep thinking, if you're going to study till the last second, your brain is going to keep working and it will not let you sleep. Then you're exhausted before even starting the exam. So that's why I suggest everybody just take a break and enjoy it. Get your body tired, get some good sleep, and just go through the exam.
I like the practical application, because sometimes, again, people try to overthink it when they're preparing for things. They overthink it, and then you're overthinking so much that before you know it, it's midnight and you're like, I have an exam in the morning. And it's like too much for them.
True.
So what if somebody's been listening to you and they're like, I'm going to apply everything Gaby's telling me. And then they get to the exam and they're like, I've never been in this high stress situation before. They've done everything to prepare, but when they're in the midst of it, are there some practical things they can do to kind of help maintain focus and concentration when you get to that place? Because especially if you've never taken a high pressure exam before, it's a difficult experience.
Agree. And that, to be honest, no matter how confident you are, you cannot control the stress the first 10 minutes, no matter who that person is, even myself.
Yeah.
And again, I go inside. I don't care. I'm just gonna enjoy it and see how it goes. But still, the first 5 to 10 minutes are very stressful, and that's something that your body is just gonna process. So you need to just pass these 5-10 minutes and not let this stress get into you. And I have a couple of strategies for that I always use. Number one, avoid distraction. Don't look at others, because everybody is stressed. If you're going to look at others and they are stressed, then you're going to get more stress. That's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, don't let your mind wander. What if how would that happen? Go think about this. Just clear your mind. Think about nothing. And the thing I do, or many people does, is pray. Praying always helps you to get calm. So if you pray before going into the exam, this will help you to get better focus and be more relaxed. Now, the first 5 minutes are crucial, specifically that you're starting with the multiple choice question. And since you are still in that stressful phase, your brain is still not fully in the zone. You are still working with the subconscious, and you want to be able to control that time. So many candidates, or actually, if not all of them, the first couple of questions, you feel that they are taking forever. They are so complicated. I'm not being able to answer them. What should I do? That's fine. When you say, okay, I just need 72 over 100 or 360 points over 500 to pass, I have a room for mistake. That's not the end of the world. Even if the first couple of questions, I don't know them, that's fine. I'm going to get to the ones that I know, and I'm going to pass that exam. So once you're drilling, read the question first. If you know how to do it, go for it. If you don't know how to do it, just mark it, move to the next one. It's fine. Even if the first 5, 6, 7 questions you didn't know, that's getting your brain ready to understand and just to be in the zone. That's it. And then as you move forward, you're going to see that your questions are becoming easier and easier to understand and absorb. And this will get you back into the confident state. So the first 5 minutes, when someone goes into one question, we are wired in one way that I have to solve this question. If I don't know how to solve it, I won't be able to solve the next 99 questions. That's not.
Yeah.
and you spend 10 or 15 minutes on just one question and you say, oh, time is flying by, I won't have enough time, and then you're going to get stressed before even going to the other question. So that's why just go through the first couple of questions and just let them go through. If you know how to solve them, do that. If you don't, you have a second round, you can go through them again and again and again. That's not a big deal. So just stay relaxed. Again, I'm already here. There's nothing I can do. There's no if anymore. There's, oh, I wish I studied more. I wish I had more time. That's not going to happen. You are at the exam. So now you need to practice. I don't care if I fail. I'm here. I'm going to test myself. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm testing myself. I'm going to see how much I understood. And I'm just going to follow the strategy that I've been practicing for the past 2, 3, 4 months. And whatever happens, happens. And avoid overthinking again. Just go through it and things will definitely be better and you have a better chance to pass.
Do you have any strategic tips for somebody who's trying to figure out how to pace themselves? You know, they get in there, they've gotten over the psychological thing. Those first 5-10 minutes have gone by. What about pacing yourself? Because, you know, a lot of exams like the CMA exam, it's a long exam. You've got the multiple choice, the essays. It's not, you know, you got to pace yourself to make sure you have enough time to get to everything.
Oh, sure. I have a lot of strategies for that. I'm going to just give you a couple of them. Okay. Number one, read the question. Don't read the given. With a multiple choice or an essay, that applies to both. There's a lot of information. When you start with reading the information, your brain still doesn't know what to look for, right? You don't know what they are going to ask you. So what will your brain do? Your brain will try to absorb and retain, which means memorize all of this information so that they can use it. Once you read the question, you have this self-doubt. What if my brain did not capture all the information that are relevant to that question? What you're going to do, you're going to read again. You're wasting time. Okay. And you're putting pressure on your brain trying to retain all of this information. And maybe 90% of it is irrelevant. So read the question first. Again, if you know how to solve it, solve it. I call it solve the easy questions first. Or actually, to use the right terminology, the practical questions first. Why? Because out of this 100 questions, if you have 10 questions, or I should say you were able to answer only 30 questions in the first round, but since they were easy to you, you will be able to answer them in 30 seconds or less, which means on average, let's say they took on average 30 minutes, 1 minute per question, including the others that you are reading and the wasted time. You have by now saved yourself 28 minutes because you have on average 1.8 minutes per question. So if you go through the easy ones first, actually you have retained 28 minutes that you can use later on other things. This will boost your self-confidence and will reduce the stress from time management. That's number one. In your second attempt, when you're going through the other questions, don't try to go over the one that you already solved. The one that you already solved, follow your first instinct. That's done. Now I'm going to go through the others. The others, you have two options. You read the question. I know how to do it. It's going to take some time. Just go and do it. Take the time that it needs 2 minutes, 3 minutes. It doesn't matter. Finish it. Don't let it actually take more than that. If you don't know it, you read the question, nada. You read the given, nothing. You read the options, again, nothing. Choose one letter. I use this strategy, which means never leave any unanswered question based on IMA suggestion. Never leave any unanswered question. I call it use the same option. So what I do is before I go to the exam, I pray. The first letter that comes to my mind, let's say my lucky letter for the day is C. So I don't know it, it's C. I don't know it, it's C. 10 questions that you don't know. If I choose all of them C, at least a couple of them will be C, right? Number one, I got some grades on something that I don't know. That's a bonus. Number two, I didn't waste time. I kept this time for my essays. And the same thing applies to the essays. Never leave any unanswered question. The second strategy that I always stress on, and I'm going to discuss it in a very condensed way, is the 4-hour exam. Before your actual exam, at least 1 month. Why do I say 1 month? Because you cannot do it every single day. You can do it 1 day per week, which is mostly your day off or it's a holiday. So as if you are sitting on the exam day, avoid any distraction, remove your cell phone, no food, no drink, practice your physiology, what you eat, what to drink, and so on, and just go through 100 multiple choice questions without knowing the answers and 2 essays. Time yourself and keep practicing that. This will create a habit. This will create a routine that will make it, oh, I've been there. When you go to sit on the exam, oh, I know exactly what to do. I know which question I need to answer first, which question next. I've been through that process. I know time management. I'm going to pass it. I've done it before. Okay. It's not something new. I can do it. And this will boost your self-esteem and you know exactly what to do each step as if you're just going through something that you have been doing for forever.
I like that. And if you're doing that 4-hour exam, when you get to that first, even if you've never done high stress exam or a high stakes exam, like a certification before, you get into that room, even if you've never been in that room before, you've put yourself in that situation. So you've already prepared your brain to get there. And that makes a world of a difference than somebody who's never tried that before.
Yep. 100%.
So I think this has been a great conversation. I really hope people can pull some tips in there, and please check the show notes and get in touch with Gaby if you have more questions and get in touch with him. But lastly, before we end, maybe we can talk about like a comprehensive like pre-day exam. You talked about this a little bit, but a pre-day exam routine that it kind of encompasses all the things we've touched, like psychological, the physiological preparation and strategies for candidates.
Great. Actually, it's not only a pre-exam day, it's a pre-exam schedule before the actual exam. So the pre-exam day is very important, actually, and the exam day is very important. But the first thing that I always tell anyone, to create a schedule, you need to have an exam date. And that's the biggest problem that everybody misses. Okay. Nobody set the exam date. I have time. I'm going to set it. I'm going to start studying and see where I go. Then I set my exam date. That's the biggest problem. You cannot set a schedule if you don't have an end date. You cannot finish a project if you don't have a delivery date. The same thing here. So set your exam date. Say, I'm going to do my exam in 4 months. Now you have a schedule. Now you can start breaking your studying pattern into blocks. The first thing I do, because since I don't know any concepts that I'm about to study, that's something new for me. For those who are taking the CMA exam for the first time, they are going to the CMA program for the first time. A small tip that I always use is just take the book. Let's say it's 300 pages. I have 100 days, so that's 3 pages per day. Just keep it simple. Mm-hmm. So on average, I should finish three pages per day. Start with that at least. Okay, or actually give yourself a buffer. Let's say you want to study for 3 months or for 1 month, and then you're going to practice for a couple of months. So I'm going to try to condense that into this period. And now you know how many pages you need to cover per day on average, because everybody keep asking me how many hours should I study. It's not about the hours. It's about the information that you need to absorb and understand within this period. Mm-hmm. You might spend 10 hours on one topic, or you might spend 10 hours on 100 topics. So time is not the essence here. It's about having the right schedule and getting through everything. A big important routine that I always found valuable for those who are working, because I see a lot of people. I was working 3 jobs when I took the CMA exam. Even when I took the CFA exam, I was working 3 jobs. So it was impossible for me to find time to study. What I do, I wake up 10 or 15 minutes earlier than my morning routine. So let's say I wake up at 7, I'm going to wake up at 6:45. And this 15 minutes, I don't study. I just read what I've studied before. I read my summary, my notes. Why? Because once you wake up, you are still in that phase where your brain is still absorbing, right? So I just read them. My brain is still fresh, and unconsciously, my brain is going to keep thinking about them all day long. For example, throughout my lunch break, I read more information, and I study whenever I have time. Before I sleep, I read again the summaries, not the same ones, maybe other summaries. Why? Because when you sleep, your brain is going to be dreaming and thinking about them. And if there's any problem, they are going to break it down. In the early morning, I'm still fresh. Those tips will, trust me, I didn't have time. I couldn't even afford to spend 5 more minutes studying when I didn't have time. But these tips actually went a long way. Okay? Again, practice. When you are answering a multiple choice or an essay, don't just try to find out what was the right answer if you answered it wrong. Even if you answered it right, try to know why it was this way, why the answer was A, not B. Even if you got it right, A, maybe your thinking was wrong, but eventually it led you to the same outcome. You need to understand what you are studying. You need to understand what you are practicing. Oh, I did wrong here. I did what? Why? You need to have this why. This why should be always with you. Why they are analyzing it this way. How this is connected to this one. Why this is different than this one. Why this is right. Why this is wrong. And then you understand. Don't memorize. Understand what you are studying. Mm-hmm. Understanding will help you to pass the exam and to apply what you learned in your career. Memorizing will not help you in either. You might pass the exam, but definitely it will not help you to use this information in real life. And a lot of what you learn in the CMA actually is applied in the business world.
Well, Gaby, I don't think we could end on a better way. I just really appreciate you sharing your expertise and knowledge with our audience today.
Thank you very much, Adam, for having me today, and best of luck for everybody in your CMA exams. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me through IMA or just look me up on LinkedIn or send me an email. Looking forward to hearing about your success in life. Thank you very much.
This has been Count Me In, IMA's podcast, providing you with the latest perspectives of thought leaders from the accounting and finance profession. If you like what you heard and you'd like to be counted in for more relevant accounting and finance education, visit IMA's website at www.imanet.org.